Really am dreading this, but guys, we have over 70 things to talk about, I believe. I'm going to try to go over these quickly sum up, and get it over with. I just want to do this now. Okay, so here we go. Again, with great questions, the answer is yes. Jinchumushi could theoretically plant eggs in another Mega Titan, and maybe it has actually done so in the past. Who can say? It potentially targets Godzilla because, well, because Godzilla is the biggest, best host for its young. With regards to Ghidorah, I would say yes, she could hold her own, but I do think she'd be at a disadvantage, a weatherweight versus a middleweight, which, by the way, if we go by what Drew said about the weight, that would completely change that, and they would be equal weight, basically. Then again, I'm just a ground soldier for Monarch. The good people at Legendary are really cultivating the story world. I just want you guys to know that we do ask him questions about Ghidorah and stuff, but again, it is completely just his opinion and stuff. Like, he doesn't know. He later on goes to say, like, he doesn't know as much about Ghidorah, and he might, it's just estimates. I do want to thank some other people, such as The One Who Is Many and Mario Smash, once again, for asking some questions, providing. I got several on here. Okay, let's go on. Heart stats fascinate me too. Okay, he's just, we were just talking about some stuff. The Ghidorah question, I would say she'd be at a disadvantage. Same thing he told me. She has more marshaling her powers in her first counters, recuperating from her long hibernation. So at first, when she's weaker, she's in flight mode, just trying to stay away from GZ. As she gets stronger, that tips over to fight. So currently, at this point, he confirms she was indeed weakened. The question is more of who is more powerful is interesting. Is a tiger more powerful than a wolf? Yes, but wolves hunt in packs, so in that sense, it's probably not that simple. A tiger would probably not be a match for wolves. I honestly did not get this one at all. I don't get this quote at all, unless he means like MUTOs versus Godzilla. We envision Jinchumushi as being the perfect matchup against Godzilla specifically. She's custom built by evolution to counter Godzilla. Remember, she doesn't actually want to kill him, not immediately. Evolution factors could play a part. Jinchumushi could overcommit to a strike as his actually bad moment. Godzilla could get a lucky shot off at the right moment. It could happen. He's saying here that there is a chance Godzilla could win, even against like a full power Jinshin, but it would be very unlikely. You'll see later on what I mean. Yes, that's absolutely what was going on. Godzilla could have won those first two encounters. That's why Jinchumushi chose to retreat. At that point, she was weaker than Godzilla. We convinced of MUTO Prime as a nightmare matchup for Godzilla. It's not that it's necessarily the strongest MUTO Prime on the block. It's more that, or it's not the strongest MUTO on the block. It's more as custom tailored by evolution to win against Godzilla. Specifically, a tiger is much stronger than a wolf. Of course, he says the same thing about stuff like that. That's an interesting question. In my opinion, it's not necessarily who's stronger in any conflict. I used a hopefully helpful example of a wolf versus tiger below. Definitely possible, yes. Jinchumushi is very powerful, there's no doubt, especially when she's close to fulfilling her evolution destiny of planting her eggs in GC. I don't remember what the question was there. Now, does that mean Jinchumushi is a wimp against other Titans? Definitely not. It could give Ghidorah a run for the money. It's here saying that even though he thinks Ghidorah would win, he still thinks Jinchumushi would give him a nice run. I would say Ghidorah would prevail most of the time. I'd give maybe a negative 300 odds, but this is just my opinion. See, opinion. Legendary's big boss, of course, and MMA fighters and boxers beat the odds all the time. Any given Sunday, it would still take a fight, but fights are just unpredictable, crazy, chaotic. Even MMA matches with lots of rules are very unpredictable, no such thing. This is in response to if Godzilla could one-shot her or beat her. And he said it would, no matter what, it would take a fight, and it could be, but, this is how we thought of it. Normally, GC has the advantage. GC is the tiger, and his opponent is the lone wolf. But with Jinchumushi, it's the opposite. Normally, Jinchumushi is at a disadvantage, or let's not say disadvantage. It's equal, it's the equal of other Mega Titans, basically saying that she's on par with stuff like Ghidorah and stuff when it comes to fighting Godzilla. You could think of lots of scenarios in which Godzilla might prevail. They're just extremely unlikely. I'm not even sure what they would be, but life is full of surprises, as I say. No such thing as perfect strategy, saying it's extremely unlikely Godzilla could win, but not impossible. Her attacks would definitely work on Ghidorah, but they wouldn't be as effective. Victory for her isn't I stood my ground, I beat you up in a fair fight. Victory for her is I planted my eggs and got away. Pretty much, yes, not zero maybe, but close to zero. That's why Monarch had to intervene. They had to stop the cycle, saying that it was there was a very, very, very minimum chance Godzilla could beat her. Um, Yes, she can manipulate tectonic plates. I imagine this as her exploiting weaknesses and fault lines that she discovers as she travels underground. So it's not that she magically wills earthquakes to happen and hey, presto, it's all science-based. If I recall, that failed attempt for a submarine was a little setback for Genshin Mushi. It just delayed her reaching full power. And once she reached full power, there's no going back to sleep, not until her youngs are implanted. Uh, I forget which one either he's talking about the underwater one or the Montana base. I completely forget. By the third fight, do you mean from Aftershock? I've conceived of that fight as a draw. This actually happens in war a lot. Both sides are forced to retreat. Saying the third fight was a draw. With regards to King of the Monsters, Godzilla able to defeat Jinsun Mushi is another great question for Legendary. He doesn't know. It's a Kong question. It appears that she's creating earthquakes at will, but it's really more complicated than that. When she punched the ground, she triggered a shockwave that destabilized a nearby fault line, or perhaps created a new fault line, or by fracturing a weak portion of an existing plate. This is in response to how her earthquake punch works. Here's my thinking. Tectonic plates are huge, several orders of magnitude larger even than Mega Titans, so causing continental drift would require power on a scale that's totally out of range. Even for Genshin Mushi, that she can manipulate plates at all is pretty impressive. I asked if she was responsible for continental drift. The idea that Genshin Mushi uses Godzilla as a host to hatch a brood of young, who would then go out and reshape the natural world to create the environment more suitable for themselves. That reshaping process incredibly destructive and violent. That's what caused the mass extinctions. As you see, I asked how the mass extinctions works. It's not that she's necessarily doing it. She just triggers it by sending an army out to do it. Great analogy, but we conceived of it a little different. Think of Jin Shimushi as more of a match or whatever that word is, I completely forget, than an alpha. What that means, basically, she's the head of the family or whatever. Like, she's the leading lady of the family. I believe that's how it is. She's not necessarily an alpha, but she's pretty powerful. You got it right. If you're referring to the sequence, I think you're referring to Jin Shimushi's using her earthquake-triggering concussive blast directly on Godzilla. The same power with a little different application. Instead of shattering a tectonic plate, it shatters Godzilla directly. So there you go. A shot, a punch that can shatter like a fault line or whatever. It's weird, I don't know, but she can target that onto her opponents. You got it right. Okay, yeah. Scary to think what would happen if she chowed down on those decommissioned nuclear cores. Let's see. I asked a bunch of questions about Kong. If you want to pause and read them, you can. I asked about the monkey juice. She can shatter weaker edge pieces of tectonic plate, like napping flint. She can also manipulate fault lines. So there you go. She can block with fault lines, and she can break the ends of tectonic plates. That's pretty impressive. And then here talking about, I asked him like if she could punch with force and earthquake stuff. And he didn't know. We calculated it was around a 7, probably on average. But I asked about Sonic Screech, human bones and organs, definitely. Maybe not another Mega Titan, although I wouldn't rule it out. But Sonic Screech is more disordering and confounding other Titans than doing direct damage. That means for most Titans, it apparently is just like a intimidation display. Even though logically, like I've talked to some other people about, it should still do damage to other Titans. Remember that past Shinshimushi didn't have access to concentrated energy sources like fast neutron reactors. Shinshimushi Miracle Grow, the Shinshimushi Godzilla faced, was the strongest that's ever walked the earth. Let's just be glad that it didn't get past Godzilla in Montana. That would be scary. He keeps implying that if she got to that nuclear reactor, she would be insanely powerful. Someone asked if the fight was an overall draw. Correct, Amondo. Or Mario did. Here he said Dagon is the ancient. I didn't really get this at all. You can see this because he then goes on to later on be like, no, I meant, well, you can't really destroy a fault line since it's a gap between two plates. Nishimushi would find the pressure points on the fault line and destabilize them, causing an earthquake like snapping a rubber band. My personal theory is that Godzilla doesn't like to use atomic breath because he's usually seen fighting near densely populated areas and he doesn't want to cause more harm or whatever. I think Godzilla has an advantage on the water. Jinshimushi purposely lures Godzilla onto land since water makes her concussive shockwaves power is less potent. So as you see, she has a bunch of, shockwave attacks and all sorts of stuff she can do. We know that she's powerful. And then it's an earlier member of Godzilla's species. That makes sense. I was asking like what the hell he meant by Dagon being the same as Godzilla, but he clarified. I purposely left parts of the battle off screen so readers could use their imagination. Let me throw that back to you. What do you think happened? The current day Godzilla is the strongest that's ever walked the earth. Just so you know, Godzilla, the current Godzilla on Earth, apparently he is not the strongest Godzilla, and in the modern day, he is definitely the strongest. He ends up saying that basically creatures in the modern day are stronger than they were in ancient times, which is interesting. Um, but in my opinion, which is a good thing. Well, he also says in his opinion too. I should have clarified that. But which is a good thing since he's facing the strongest Mushi that's ever walked the earth. Um, let's get back to what I was saying about Mushi being the perfect nightmare for Godzilla. The frequency of the screech is designed to resonate and shatter Godzilla's plate specifically, although it can, of course, shatter other materials. This is referring to the sonic screech. It can mess up some things, but you know. Yes, I would. We saw her at her best. At her best in quotation marks. It just means we kind of saw her at the peak. That's like the peak we saw her. She was fighting. She had in a way full strength and stuff. It's weird. Um, but she can still get stronger. He talks about how you can just keep amping up your base and stuff basically in this universe. It's kind of like Dragon Ball. So here she's somewhat at her base, even though if you go by hibernation law, it still would take longer for her to recover. And she still had more strength to grow, as he said earlier. Uh, let's see. Could have won the first two encounters. Was MUTO Prime in a weakened state. It was it due to Godzilla's aggression. Both those things exactly. Comics are very different from movies, and the action sequences take up a lot of pages to make room for the story. Action sequences, sometimes often actually highly condensed. It's called harmonic resonance. Guys, I'm tired. I just woke up. Different materials shatter at different frequencies, saying that apparently the frequencies are perfectly toned to destroy Godzilla's dorsal plates. I assume that means even his newer ones. Um, let's see. Well, like I said, they both retreated. This happens all the time in the wild and human warfare. Neither side is able to press the advantage and annihilate the other. She was as powerful as a member of her species has ever been. No Shimushi has had access to the pure power of fast neutron reactors before. Let's be glad she didn't get to the Montana base. I think the Mega Titans is not really clear what the limit on their power would be. The Shimushi and Aftershock had access to Miracle Grow, food source in the form of fast neutron reactors, so she was the most powerful Shimushi the world has ever seen. Um, Using the seismic concussive blast here, and that's I saw the picture, it's the earthquake punch. I've elaborated on this in the answers below. Comics aren't like films, and the action sequences consume a lot of pages for the sake of story. Sometimes, often, action sequences are very a person see the fight going on longer than just a few swings from your combatant, but this is where the fun comes in. You can bring your imagination to the fight to make it uniquely yours. The answer to that question is we'll never know, and I hope we never do. And this is, for me, is the best part about reading a story. You can use your imagination to think what might happen. This is in response to me asking about what would happen if she reached the Montana base. Definitely, it's not an easy fight for either combatant. He kind of confirms that by the third fight, they were basically on pretty equal ground, somewhat. I would say Shimushi was maybe stronger, but due to some of the stuff she can do, which is insane, we'll get onto that. A different Shimushi, in all likelihood. Hold on. Okay. Um, But remember that there's a lot about Mega Titan's life cycles that are very mysterious. The theory is that once she implanted her eggs, Ishimushi dies soon after. This one was really off because there's a lot of evidence going against this. Um, he even says it's a theory, and this is the only time he refers to it as that. I mean, the fact he mentioned the other day that she went into hibernation after she implants her eggs and stuff, wouldn't you just straight up say they die, instead of just implanting their eggs? But, it's fine. I would say if Godzilla's species was nearly pushed to extinction by Jinchumushi without Monarch conducting more Jinchumushi was certainly a major stressor on the Godzilla species' long-term survival prospects. Could definitely get through the shell, yes. There's two kinds of trauma, basically penetrating and blunt force. No amount of armor plating protects against blunt force trauma. That's why warhammers are very effective weapons. I don't think there's any such thing as an easy fight. No such thing as a 100% predictable outcome. The Finns defeated the Soviet Union in the Winter War of 1939. No one expected that. You can only talk about relative advantages, probabilities. I would say Jin Shimushi has a different type of armor. It's armor plating like insect kitten. Uh, Godzilla's skin is more pliable. It's meant, I think he's supposed to say, it's meant to absorb kinetic energy in part by stretching and distending, so it's very hard to compare the two different advantages and weaknesses. Yes, I would say that parts of their fights happen off screen, and this is where the individual reader's imagination can come into play. You saw how the battle started, you saw some key moments, you saw how it ended. What do you think happened between them? Yes, I would say that the parts of their fights happen off screen, and this is the individual imagination can come into play. You saw how the battle started, you saw some key moments, you saw how it ended. What do you think happened? I asked him about the gravity beams, and like he says here, he doesn't have much involvement or inside intelligence on Ghidorah's power. Um, let's see, is Godzilla the most dangerous prey to the MUTO's prime? I would definitely say that. I don't think it's right to say it's a cakewalk for Genshin Mushi. I tried to make that clear in the story on multiple occasions. She had to flee from him. No such thing as a free lunch for a Mega Titan. Absolutely, yes, evolution is a slow motion race. Um, this is basically referring to how Genshin Mushi's had to evolve over time to be able to fight, or to be able to counter Godzilla. Because I guess before, they're probably on even ground. Safe to say it's not a pleasant experience for anyone to pass the Godzilla's atomic breath, asking if her atomic breath hurt at all, and that's everything I got. So, guys, that was painful. That was a painful 17 minutes. What can we sum up? Um, she wasn't at full power, I guess, for most of the comic. By the time the third fight happens, it's weird the way he states it, but Godzilla and Prime are on equal grounds, and they even had a draw. The only difference is Prime hardly had any damage, while Godzilla had a lot of damage. Plus, I'm pretty sure Kaiden is a lot stronger than Godzilla's, like how Godzilla's hide would be, in terms of real bug stuff. Apparently she got the Montana base. Godzilla would have been absolutely dominated. I mean, she would have became extremely powerful. Her tactic wasn't to hit him over time and flee because she had to weaken him. Her tactic was apparently to just stay away from him while she got strong enough to be able to fight him, which is why by the third fight she felt a bit confident and fought against him. And they just considered it a draw, and apparently both retreated from that battle. Um, she doesn't directly create earthquakes, but she can punch through the ground with what my friends found to be called a shear earthquake, and completely just destroy fault lines, or not destroy, I guess, just whatever. It's impressive. You know what I mean? She destabilizes them or whatever. Um, she could break off the ends of tectonic plates. All impressive stuff. I mean, there's a lot of stuff here to talk about. Hopefully, someone like the one who's many stuffs in the comments and can elaborate for some people too, because he knows a lot more of the science mumbo jumbo than I do. Um, but yeah, she can hit with, like, I believe they calculate it to be on basically just a rough roundabout estimate, a magnitude 7 earthquake. So that's pretty good. That's a pretty good punch force. The mass extinction events she didn't directly cause per se. I mean, she did, but she didn't. She was the one going out killing everything. She killed one thing, and completely, everything else destroyed. The MUTOs destroyed the environment. Then they turn on each other. There can only be one prime at a time. We know that. There's a theory apparently that Jinshimushis die they after they implant eggs, but it wouldn't necessarily make sense. It's just weird because first off, I'm pretty sure they saved this prime as the parents of Miyoshi in 2014. So if this prime is the parents, why is she not dead? Why would she not be dead if she's the parents of those two? She had to give them birth somehow. And then on top of that, if Primes did die and this one's in one, why they go into hibernation after they get the job done? Shouldn't they just die? There's way too much evidence pointing to that theory's not true, and I don't think he was necessarily even saying that theory was true. He was saying, as he said, it's just a theory. Um, but I'm trying to think of what else to say. Yeah, apparently they were equal by the third fight. Cool facts. Um, you know, so that pretty much sums up. If you want to read everything you can, Prime definitely seems to keep growing in strength. She's not an Alpha Titan apparently, but she's pretty damn close to it. She can counter Godzilla. She can definitely throw hands with Ghidorah pretty easily in the creator's opinion. I'll still do a death battle and give my opinion with all these facts because I still think the battle would go a certain way. I think a lot of people still know what my opinion is, but it's all pretty exciting stuff. We have a lot more information, a much better understanding on Jinshin Mushi now. And hopefully we can continue to grow. We still know our only estimates for height and stuff because he didn't have any. We know that Drew, the artist, said that basically when designing it, it was like the estimate would be like 50% more, which would put her at about 135,000 metric tons. And she's probably around 340 to 350 feet tall. I would have to assume. What do you guys think of it? All this video was really painful to make. I hope you guys made it this far. If you did, thank you for watching once again. I hope you all have a great day. And as always, peace out and bye-bye. High Flyers, signing out.